Layers. This lesson is about working with layers, and so I'm going to talk about some of the properties of layers and why they're so neat to work with. It wasn't until the third version of Photoshop that we had the ability to work with layers. So let me explain what layers are. Layers are like pieces of tracing paper with artwork on them, individual pieces. And each piece has sort of an order. We call that stacking order. So imagine you have a pile of papers, and on top of each paper there's one piece of artwork. So each layer is like its own individual piece of artwork. I'm going to show you how this works now. Before we begin, make sure that you have out your layers palette. If you look on the right side of your screen and you're missing a palette, go to the drop-down menu that says Window. These are all the different palettes. Only the ones with the check in front of them are the ones that are open. So you can see I have my History palette open, Layers, and I also want my Navigator palette open because I love my Navigator palette. It shows me where I'm at within the image, so I always find this one helpful. Okay, here we go. I have 3 images open, and I want to be able to float them all in one window. So I'm going to put my cursor inside the title bar and pull it down. Now that picture will be floating inside of a window. Right now I can see 2 pictures simultaneously side by side. I'm going to go ahead and grab my third. Okay. And I'm getting ready to illustrate to you how layers work. So before I can do this, I'm going to size these 3 images so that they're all the same resolution. So to do that, I can do it 2 ways. One way would be to go to the crop tool. And remember, with our crop tool, we like to have width, height, and resolution as our option. I'm going to make my height and width blank because I don't want to cut anything out, but I'm going to make my resolution 300. After I do that, I'm going to take my image and I'm going to press enter. I can cut parts of my image out here if I want to, but I don't want to. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to crop my other 2 images and make them 300 resolution as well. All I have to do is hit enter and the third one. Click the crop tool, come to my image, and I'm going to hit enter. And now I know it's 300. So now I'm going to drag one image on top of the other. I get my move tool, and here I go to just drag one whole solid image on top of the other. When I have these 2 images on top of the other, they're going to line up. Now they're lining up perfectly because they're both exact squares that are 8 by 8 and they have 300 resolution. But now let's illustrate that point of layers. Layers are pieces of paper with artwork on them. This is the layers palette. The eyeball indicates whether or not I can see a layer, and the layer that is blue is going to be the active layer. So any adjustments I'm making, I'm only making it to the active layer. Layers are like pieces of tracing paper with artwork on them. So now I'm going to drag a third layer into my picture. Click, drag, drop, line it up, and you'll see this picture right now has 3 layers. The background layer, that's what's on the bottom. Layer 1 is in the middle, layer 2 is on top. I can change it so layer 1 is on the top by clicking on it in the layers palette, dragging it until I see this blue highlight, and then dropping it, and boom, that one's on top. Again, the eyeball indicates layer visibility. If you take the eyeball away, you're just going to see a checkerboard. That means transparency, nothing's on that. So I'm going to bring back my layers. So now there's something called blending modes, and blending modes change the way one layer blends into what's underneath it. Right now our layers are 100% opaque. I can lower the opacity of a layer, and now you'll start to see the other layers underneath. So that's one option. I'm going to leave it at full opacity to drive my second point home. The drop-down menu where it says normal, these are blending modes, and these are amazing. So if you go through and you sample the different blending modes, you're going to start to see your picture come to life. Try this out. You're going to absolutely love it. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Experiment by changing which layer's on top and then changing the blending mode of that layer as well. You're going to get so many different effects, and I think you will be very pleased with what you see. So have fun with this. This is what the layers lesson is about. Now going back to the directions of the layers lesson, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start fresh with just my picture with no blending modes. So you can see how to do like a selection. So I could take one picture. I'm going to take two pictures and put them side by side. I'm going to select a building from just one of my pictures. I'll use my quick select tool. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this building from here. Okay, remember Shift to add to a selection, Alt to subtract. I'm just going to grab that one building and I'm going to bring it over. This is just like your surrealism project that you did in Photo 1. Once you have that layer, I'm going to position it so I think it's in a cool place. I'm going to let it run off the page, do a little overlapping. Notice how I get those components of composition in there. Maybe I want this building to be bigger. So if I do, I would hit Control T or Edit Free Transform. Hold Shift, and I can make my building a little bigger. But now is the cool part, and this is the layers lesson. I'm going to take this building and I'm going to change the blending mode of it. I'm going to adjust it until I get an option that I like. That's color burn, and I think it's awesome. I love that one, so I'm going to go with it. Hit Enter. And that's it. So you can begin building as complicated of an image as you want. You can see really cool effects, but just have fun with it. And then when you're all done, I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this layer. So if I hold the Alt key, I can make a duplicate of that building. Maybe I want to flip it, so I'm going to go to Edit, Transform. This I want to have it coming out of the other side, so I'm going to flip it vertical. And then I'm going to let this building run off the page from here. Wait, let me turn this. I want to rotate this. Control T. I'm going to rotate this around. And I'm going to let this building run off the page here. There we go. Now this one is a separate layer, and so this one I'm going to actually give a different blending mode to. Let me find one that I like. Luminosity sometimes is pretty cool. Not in this case, though. Let me go with hue. Disappeared. So just try the different blending modes, see what you get, see what you like. Oh, that's cool. That's vivid light. I like that. And play with it. Make a complex image and have fun with this. When you're all done editing, you go to Layer. Oops, I have to apply a transformation. I'm going to hit Enter. And now I'll be able to go to Layer and flatten the image. Because remember, right now in my Layers palette, I have 3 pieces of paper. But when I'm all done editing, I'm going to make it 1 in order for me to make a print of it if I wanted to. But you only do this at the absolute end. So to flatten it, you go to Layer, Flatten Image. And now if you look in your Layers palette, it's 1 picture. So for this reason now it's 1 piece of paper and I can send it out. That was your lesson on layers. Please answer the questions at the bottom of the digital layers lesson and turn those into Shobi, along with your finished edited image.